You know what? We're winging it here on the Win Daily Sports NBA DFS Preview live stream with my man, Ghost. Before we get to the smallest slate I've ever seen in my entire life, there's probably been smaller, I'm sure. But it's a small slate. Ghost, before we get to any of that, dude, you are crushing the NBA DFS slates. And I think, as you always say, simple advice is maybe you should just follow the core.
That's it. Like, I don't know how else to say it. You just got like some nights, you know what? It's like everything in DFS, right? Some nights it doesn't pan out. But if you worry about changing your process every single night, it's not going to work. That's what doesn't work. Sticking to the process when it ends up being profitable. And you know what? It's actually Jay that really drilled this into my head, because when I first started working with him, it was always about, I want to win every day. That's what every DFS player's dream is, right? I want to win every day. And then you realize that you can't win every day. And what's more important is it's not how often you win, it's how much money you win when you do. So seeing the screenshots in Discord for, tens of thousands of dollars, and whether it's, first place in a tournament is $500 that night, or if it's $1,000, first place is first place. So, seeing that, if a good night for someone is, being on the bubble and barely cashing, then at that point we could reevaluate the process. But when we have screenshots like we have in the past week, where, it's thousands and thousands of dollars per night on, again, not to pump his tires too much, Derek, I'm going to give you another shout out here. So hopefully you enjoy this one, but guy ends up putting in $50 and takes home $1,000. That's a solid night. You end up having someone in the Discord chat last night put in a couple $100 and you walk away with over 10 grand. Like that's what we're talking about, where it's not how often you win what matters. It's when you hit, you got to hit it big. And that's exactly what we've been doing this week. So never leave the table on a heater. Never.
No, you can't. You can't leave the table on a heater. And safe to say you're on a heater right now. Is that safe to say? Is heater even the right word to describe this? What is going on?
This is probably the best we've ran all season. Like we've had some really good moments, but
and this
week is really something. This week is really something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like with the introduction to MLB and the hybrid players, a lot of people playing MLB and NBA. There's some questionable decisions being made there, and I'm just not letting the field sway me off of it. Like take a player like Hassan Whiteside yesterday. I was expecting this guy to be close to 30% owned, and then the Brooklyn game kicks off the slate, and I see a 30% owned Nick Claxton. We literally talked about it on the show, how whether he's starting or not, he's going to see time against Joel Embiid. That's a big no-no for me. In cash, I was telling the guys in Discord, if you're playing cash, you got to play Claxton because he's ridiculously high owned, right? So if he would have popped off, you need him in cash. But for everyone that's playing tournaments, I ended up saying like Whiteside's my guy tonight. And then the Sacramento lineup came out, and it was the classic SpongeBob meme. Everyone panicked. Everyone panicked. Whiteside isn't starting, and all I kept writing was the exact same message. And to be honest with you, it got to a point where I wasn't even typing anymore. I just had the text copied to my keyboard, and I was like, Whiteside's my guy. I'm sticking with Whiteside. Whiteside's my guy. I'm sticking with Whiteside. And then the game starts, and I see 3% owned. I was like, okay, I'll either look really good for this, or I'll just, maybe the heater comes to a 24-hour pause, and I look like a buffoon.
Nobody noticed because it's only 3%, and let's just.
Well, that's it. And then here we are. Everyone's playing Kem Birch. I like the Kem Birch play. That one was a solid one, starting for the Raptors, and Nick Nurse just runs the stars into the ground. So I did like that, but a lot of people ended up going double value center with Kem Birch and Nick Claxton, and nobody played Whiteside. And then the guy ends up going off for 48 DraftKings points at minimum price, and it was just it made the already strong night with De'Aaron Fox and Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry. We said on the show, I said at the beginning, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get Steph in because of, I wasn't sure about the value. Then all of a sudden, Whiteside opens up, and I'm like, oh man, we're talking about Curry in the point guard spot, Fox in the guard spot, and Westbrook in my utility. That's 300. That's 300. I wish that was 300. That's 200 DraftKings points right there. And that's exactly what happened. You had Westbrook going off for 70, Fox went off for 65, I believe, and Curry dropped 67. He only needed 28 minutes to drop 67 DraftKings points. So it was just It was a good night. All the stars aligned. A lot of people ended up playing Claxton. We played Elijah Johnson. And it was funny because the tilting in Discord never fails to amuse me. You know, you end up seeing Elijah Johnson getting 2 minutes in the first half. And I was like, patience. I'm telling you, his time is coming. And he takes the court with 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And he drops 17 DraftKings points in 8 minutes. And I was like, it's exactly what we wanted from him. And he ended up tripling up Nick Claxton, right? So that the pivots worked. The core worked. It was just a really strong night for everybody. And shout out to Jay the Guru in Discord. Jay the Guru ended up taking home some serious coin yesterday. So another big win. We're going to keep it going here.
Yeah. You know what? Let's keep it going. How about that? Let's do it. 4-game slate, though. Four game slate. So I imagine, Ghost, we're probably going to look at this a little bit different than maybe, let's say, an 11-game slate or 7-game slate even. How does it change things? We'll start there just with a small slate. Are we just attacking 1 or 2 games?
So for me, I don't mind spreading out my exposure. It's just when you end up doing that, you can't spread yourself too thin because even on a 4-game slate, you can spread yourself too thin. You end up forcing plays because, I don't want too many players on X team and this and that. But if there's a certain game environment that's on a small slate that you want to attack, you know, like if Washington Sacramento was on a 4-game slate, I would probably end up having 3 pieces from each side, which I didn't yesterday because it was an 11-game slate or a 12-game slate, no matter how many games there was. There was so many good spots where I didn't feel the need to do that. I ended up having Westbrook with Fox and Whiteside, so it was 2 Sacramento and 1 Washington player. That was enough for me because I wanted Westbrook to go off. It's exactly what he did. I wanted Fox to get all the usage. I didn't want to play Buddy Hield or Halliburton in my GPP lineup, right? I ended up mentioning those guys for cash because you know, they have safe floors, and Halliburton was a great play on FanDuel at 5,500 for cash games with the ownership that he was pulling. But again, he wasn't in the optimal lineup because when Fox ends up going bonkers, it really caps everybody's ceiling, right? So in a spot like this, there's not really one particular game environment that really stands above the rest for me. Again, if it was Washington Sacramento, I'd probably go nuts on that game on a 4-game slate. I'd probably have three players from each side. But and on a slate like this, we're an hour till tip, or an hour and a half, excuse me, and there is no value on this slate, not a single thing. The good news is that we're waiting on 2 key pieces of news, and it's the very first game on the slate in Trae Young and Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So Giannis hasn't played in quite some time now. Trae's missed back-to-back games for the Hawks, so you know, with how injured John Collins is, and that's going to be a little bit. Gallinari isn't playing on this one either, I don't believe. So I know it says Q on DK, but I'm pretty sure Gallinari's already been ruled out. They have Cam Reddish, they have DeAndre Hunter also ruled out. They're not going to force Trae Young back too early, right? I get it. They're jockeying for position out there in the East, and they made a nice little run in the past week or so, but they don't want to force Trae Young back and lose him for 3 weeks leading up to the playoffs either, right? So with Gallo already out, Collins is already out. Yeah, okay, thank you for confirming that. That's what what I had seen before I came on the show. So Gallo's already out.
And Trae Young is a game time decision. That's it.
Like I don't really see them feeling the need to really force him back here. If he plays, it's because he's a full go, right? So in that case, I will have interest in Trae Young. Very similar comparison to what I do with a guy like Derrick Henry when I'm playing NFL DFS, right? Like people are like, oh, is he 100% healthy? When somebody is the face of your franchise, you can't risk them. Like you're playing them in one game to lose them for a couple of weeks. It doesn't make sense long term, right? So if Trae Young plays tonight, it's because he's 100% healthy and he's ready to go. So I will have interest there, but Steph's my guy tonight. He was yesterday, only 10% on yesterday. Today it's probably going to be closer to 25-30. But even at that, it's 70% too low for me. This guy's just greatest shooter of all time, and he's on one of these runs where when he's shooting like this, he's unguardable, let alone going up against Darius Garland or Colin Sexton. You just can't stop Steph tonight. So whether I'm able to fit him and Trae Young in together, I don't know yet. I haven't really toyed with that lineup. But there's certain positions that are really, really weak, and you know you're gonna have to take a stance on whether you trust these value plays or not, or even more so, can you trust the combination that you're gonna have if you're punting a position like power forward tonight, which is really, really ugly. It's power forward is probably the ugliest position on the slate tonight. If you end up punting that position, you can't really say, okay, this guy needs to go off for me to pay off. Like you got to look at it at a combination factor. If you're using a punt power forward and it allows you to get Trae Young in your lineup, then you got to say, okay, does Trae Young in that punt power forward outscore a combination like Draymond Green and Kevin Huerter, something like that, right? So that's pretty much the approach that I'm building tonight. I'm locking in Steph 100%. I could say that every 5 seconds just to really reiterate the point that I'm locking in Steph. There's no way I'm not playing Steph Curry tonight unless he's ruled out. Up until now, he's projected to play. He's in my lineup. It's really that simple. So
yeah, I think what I want to do here then is just play through the scenarios, because what we're waiting for is to see if we have enough value. I think, as you just said,
that's the biggest thing.
Both Trae Young and Steph Curry. So let's go. I mean, let's go with the example of both of them are out, because Trae Young's game time decision. Giannis hasn't played in a while, so who knows if he's actually going to. Let's just say they're both out. Then what value do we have? Where do we go? In that
case, you know what? Bobby Portis at the power forward position. Look, it is overpaying for Bobby Portis, but this is a 4-game slate, again, where we're playing for sheer raw points here. We're not playing for flame emojis next to their names. We're not playing for, this guy needs to get 6, 7, 8 times value, the Zach Galifianakis math gif.
Real quick, no. Giannis is playing today.
Okay, so that just throws it out. So am I playing Giannis tonight? No, I'm not playing Giannis tonight.
Okay, so no matter what,
I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm not playing Giannis tonight. A lot of people will, and it's going to force their hand with some really bad value plays. This is not a slate where you could end up forcing these value plays. I don't see it yet. Things could change. Again, it's NBA DFS, right? Things could change in a minute, let alone 90 minutes till tip off, right? So, but as of right now, at 6:03 p.m. Eastern, I'm not playing Giannis with Steph, and if there's one to choose, everybody already knows my answer.
So right? Dante DiVincenzo's out; he's not playing in this one. Giannis in, Dante out. Does that? I mean, I don't know where the value is there, because obviously you can't play Giannis, and I completely agree with you. But is there now any value we can find with Dante DiVincenzo out, or does that value still go away because Giannis is back? Kind of thing.
It's just with Giannis there, it really complicates things. And then you add Drew Holiday to the fold, you add Chris Middleton to the fold. Yep. Bobby Portis coming off the bench when Giannis is not in. We're looking at some really fringe guard options in guys like Pat Connaughton and any one of these guys, right? So it's just for me, I don't know if I'm going to get there. Look, if it's a last man in kind of situation where you have Jeff Teague or you have Pat Connaughton, those are really the two names that I'd only consider at this point. You can't play guys like Sam Merrill or you can't play Thanasis, like all these Milwaukee players that we play when Drew Holiday's out and Chris Middleton's out and Giannis is out and DiVincenzo's out, we had the other night. Yeah. It's great to play all these $3,000 guys, but you can't play them on the slate. So Jeff Teague and Pat Connaughton would be the lowest I would go. Personally, I don't know if I'm going to get there. It really depends on what the model at windailysports.com says. So if it ends up popping one of those two guys, then I'll slot them in. But right now, I don't really feel too confident in this Milwaukee spot, right? With the way that Giannis is going to play, he's going to dominate all the touches out there. Drew's still going to get his. Chris Middleton's going to take some shots. It's just, I don't know if I could get there.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. One name, because obviously if, Giannis is there and let's say, I guess even Trae Young does, or if he's out, whatever the case, but we're trying to look for a little bit cheaper options now when go down. I mean, do we have to start building lineups around Devin Booker? I've seen there is one lineup we're going to go to from Derek Schneider, who has Booker in his lineup. Obviously, we see some glide here, Devin Booker season. Does this mean because he's a little bit cheaper at 8,700 that, he would be the one we kind of have to put in our lineups and, then maybe some mid-level guys and a little bit lower than that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that I would like to see happen in the Atlanta game is that Trae Young doesn't play.
Yeah.
Just obviously it'd be nice if Trae plays, because then you have a more competitive game environment and you could definitely play Trae Young and it won't make it too easy to find all these value plays either. But if Trae's out, you got to lock in Brandon Goodwin. At 4,500, he'd be probably one of the top, probably the top value play on the entire board there. So Brandon Goodwin would be a lock for me if Trae Young is out. And then that secondary stud, it's likely going to be one of Devin Booker, or if you want even more mid-range, you could go to the Colin Sexton, Draymond Green combo and just stack that Golden State Cleveland game, right? So Colin Sexton's a pure scorer. I'm a big Colin Sexton fan. I'm a Colin Sexton truther. I love it. I love his game. He's just a product of his environment, right? So this is a team that they're still rebuilding. They're trying to figure out their offense. Acquisition of Jared Allen. Jared Allen is only 22 or 23 years old. They have their core guys now where, they don't even have to worry about draft picks developing for 3 to 4 years. guys like Colin Sexton and Jared Allen still have 3 to 4 years before they hit their prime, right? So it's just this Cleveland team has a lot to play for in terms of what they're building in that organization, and Colin Sexton is a big part of that. He's the guy that's going to go out there and drop 20 points every single game. And in the last month, he hasn't scored 20 points in a game once in 30 days. Like think about the amount of games that they've played. When I ended up writing it up, I think it was 13 or 14 games that the Cavs played in, and he hasn't scored 20 in one of those games. Like, it's just, that's all he does is go out there and score. Is he going to dazzle you with 10 rebounds? No, absolutely not. Is he going to get 10 assists? He has the potential to, but the guys around him suck. So no, he won't get 10 assists. Like, it's just, he's going to go out there and he's just going to say, give me the ball. I'm going to do it myself. And that's exactly what we want for a guy that's 7,500 too, right? So, and then you could also consider Jared Allen, exactly like what Glad is saying now too. I ended up writing up Jared Allen as well. This is a guy that, you know what, there's no one playing behind him. When Andre Drummond was still out there in Cleveland, it was a big problem. You didn't know if Drummond was getting 35 minutes. Then Jared Allen came in and Drummond's minutes started going down. But then there's some nights where Jared Allen still played 15 minutes and Drummond would go up to 35. It was like that until they shut down Andre Drummond, right? So now that's not really the case. But in the same kind of sentence, you still have Isaiah Hartenstein there. You still have Kevin Love. You still have Larry Nance Jr. You still have Dean Wade. Like, I get it. They're not the most talented group of forwards and big men, but it's still a crowded group out there, right? So if I'm paying $7,700 for a Cleveland Cavalier tonight, I'm going to Colin Sexton. Who does Colin Sexton have to compete with minutes for? Darius Garland starts alongside with him. And when Darius Garland starts with Colin Sexton, Garland doesn't shoot the ball. He knows his role. Sexton's there to shoot. There's no one coming off the bench for Cleveland that really threatens Sexton's minutes in that sense, right? So whereas in that front court, Kevin Love is always that wild factor where we don't know how many minutes Kevin Love is going to play. We don't know how many minutes Larry Nance Jr. is going to play. Jared Allen's still out there. Dean Wade has been playing 36 to 38 minutes a night. Is he going to get some minutes? Isaac Okoro is still coming off the bench. Isaiah Hartenstein's coming off the bench. Taurean Prince is coming off the bench. Like, these are I can name 6 or 7 guys that, you know, and you can make a case for any one of them to play 20 minutes, and they're all in the front court. Whereas in the backcourt, it's completely depleted. It's Sexland, and that's it. You got Darius Garland, you got Colin Sexton, that's it. So if I'm going up there to that, it's not even mid top range, but if I'm going to the top range of the Cleveland pricing grid, it's Jared Allen and Colin Sexton. I'm siding with the guard spot just because I have no idea what's going to happen in this front court tonight.
Is that kind of what we have to do in this one? Now we have to go mid-range player. It looks like if Trae Young plays, I guess that's if Trae Young doesn't, that's where we're finding value, right? That's all it's coming down to. And then so if he does play, though, we're getting our mid-range guys having to go down a little bit. We're getting Steph Curry in there no matter what, it seems like. But in order to fit Steph Curry and maybe a guy like Devin Booker, we have to go a little bit lower to maybe the Cleveland side of things.
That's it, exactly, right? Yeah. So this is where you could end up taking shots, and you know the 5K range is loaded tonight, and I don't want to say it's loaded with talent because it's not, but it's loaded with options. Any one of these guys can see 20 plus minutes, and they can do some damage, right? So guys like I was mentioning before, Isaiah Hartenstein, Taurean Prince, Dean Wade, these are all guys that are fantasy point per minute producers out there. And when I say that, it's the analytics of NBA DFS, but you know what I'm saying is that when they go out there, they're involved in the offense. They're not just going out there, you know, PJ Tucker style, where they're running to the corner, not touching the ball, and then running back on defense, and then running back to the corner, running back on defense. Like, they're really out there getting involved in the offense. Isaiah Hartenstein's really active on the glass too against Golden State, who now James Wiseman is out. They're gonna shift Draymond to the 5 again tonight, or maybe Kevon Looney ends up getting the spot start. But either way, Draymond's gonna end up being on one of Jared Allen or Isaiah Hartenstein there. So not exactly the friendliest matchup for them. Personally, I don't know what I'm going to do with this Cleveland rotation just yet. It is quite greasy, but you have the guy that's on the screen right now in Hassan Whiteside, where we could just lather, rinse, repeat, and his price actually went down. So it's the same spot. Richaun Holmes is missing 3 games. They've already announced that he's done for the week, right? For the rest of the week, Richaun Holmes is not playing. My main issue here is that the reason why I loved Hassan Whiteside so much is because I had a feeling that one of Medu or Damian Jones would start, but that you can't win a game with one of those two guys at your starting center position, right? So you take a team like Washington, they're extremely exploitable in the paint. And it's the same thing with Phoenix. If there's one spot that I want to attack, it's certainly not against Chris Paul in that backcourt. It's certainly not against Mikal Bridges on the wing. We're attacking DeAndre Ayton's defense, right? So he's a really strong rebounder, rightfully so, but his defense blows. So this is a spot where if I'm attacking Phoenix, I don't want to attack them in the guard spot. So De'Aaron Fox, it is off my list tonight. I've way too much respect for CP3's game and his defensive skill in general. My main concern here is that they needed Hassan Whiteside yesterday to play with the starters to keep them in the game, right? So Hassan Whiteside got all those crunch minutes, whether it was closing halves, opening quarters, anything like that. That's where Hassan Whiteside ended up getting minutes with De'Aaron Fox, with Tyrese Halliburton, with Barnes on the court, with Buddy Hield on the court. And it really thrives this game because it's a competitive game environment. Vegas has this one as a 12.5-point spread. I'm even seeing most of the money come on Phoenix. That's where if Sacramento ends up going into the fourth where they're down by 20, I can't foresee Luke Walton putting Hassan Whiteside out there, right? So it's the main concern there. But the main reason why I want to play him is because if Sacramento stays in this game, it's because of guys like Hassan Whiteside exploiting their one-on-one matchups. So at 3,600 or 3,400, any one of these prices that you're looking at, guys in that range, you got to say, do they have a path to minutes? And if they do, those are guys that you want to take shots on. I'm not going to go dumpster diving for some value just because I want Curry and Trae Young or Giannis or any one of these guys, because a lot of these guys are going to flop in this range, and the mid-range is really loaded on. Contrary to yesterday's slate where it was a lot of value. So you're right 100%. We're going to have to go with one of Devin Booker or Colin Sexton to pair with Steph Curry rather than a Trae Young, a De'Aaron Fox, or a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
All right, so a couple of lineups to go through, and then we'll wrap it up here in the NBA DFS Preview Show. WinDailySports.com is where you can check out Ghost Gems, every other article, cheat sheet, and optimizer, projection model, all of it to help you for building your NBA DFS slates. Let's go with this one first. So we got Curry, Drew, Prince, Draymond, Whiteside, Booker, Lee, and Saric.
So, see, like a guy like Drew Holiday tonight, I might just go down to Sexton. If Sexton's in, you could save some money there, go to Sexton, because is Drew going to outscore Sexton? Very possible. Drew's been playing well, but with Giannis in, it's enough for me to convince myself that I want to save the $900 and upgrade a guy like Dario Saric or Damian Lee or any one of these guys, right? So yeah, I'm okay with the Taurean Prince play. You got to take a shot on some mid-range guys. If you're nervous about it, you could go to Kevin Huerter as well. That backcourt trio, I guess I could call them, between Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Kevin Huerter, they're going to soak up all the minutes out there, right? So Milwaukee is beatable by the three-point shot. That's that all three of them can knock down the three. So I'm not opposed to taking a shot on Kevin Huerter. If you're worried about Taurean Prince, after I mentioned the Cleveland front court situation, that's a viable pivot as well. I like Draymond tonight. I like Whiteside, of course. Devin Booker, I wrote him up. I'm always team Devin Booker, and against the worst defense in the NBA, he's gonna have a cakewalk of a matchup there. So that would be the one thing that I could recommend. If you're worried about those last two pieces, guys like Damian Lee and Dario Saric, where you're like, oh my God, these are just my last guys in. I don't know if they're going to pan out. It's that pivot in the mid-range guys. Go from Drew to Sexton, and then you could upgrade from the $3,000 plays to maybe a $4,000 play. Make yourself a little bit of a safer lineup.
All right, one more for you from Glide. Steph, Booker, Bazemore, Draymond, Payne, Crowder, and Drummond. I
love Ken Bazemore tonight, and it makes me nauseous to say that. But just when we're talking about a guy that, again, a product of his surroundings. Is Ken Bazemore a good basketball player? Compared to, like, when we're talking about NBA DFS, is he a good contributor in NBA DFS? No. Ken Bazemore is not going to go out there and wow you. But when we're talking about these $5,000 players, and like for me, when I'm looking at this list, I literally made a list by hand and paper, and I was like, okay, which one of these guys has a path to 25 points? And if you do that, you put aside your lineup, you put it, just write down the guys that, or type it on your computer if you prefer on the computer. I'm more old school. I like to write it down because I like to see it better.
There you go.
And I write down these guys: Kevin Huerter, Taurean Prince, Ken Bazemore, all these guys in the 5K range. There's maybe a handful of guys out of maybe 25 to 30 of them that have a path to 25 points, and Ken Bazemore is one of them. So Kelly Oubre is out in this one. Bazemore is likely going to line up against Isaac Okoro. It's a good matchup for him. All he needs is a couple threes, and he's going to outscore the majority of the pack there, right? So he's fairly active on the glass in the sense that he at least goes up for rebounds. He's not just, a guy like Duncan Robinson who's just headed up court right away. So he has a chance at a couple of rebounds there. And when you have Steph playing the way that he's playing, he's going to get a couple of assists, not because he made a dime of a pass, but just because he basically handed it off to Steph Curry and he dropped the three, right? So it's a spot where the peripheral stats he's a product of his environment. He'll be able to get there. I do like Kent Bazemore tonight. Steph, Draymond, Booker, I'm on. Andre Drummond is the guy that's a real wild card tonight. It's spicy for me, so it's a really good spot for him. But again, that one is the big risk. But no risk it, no biscuit, right? So if you're not risking some plays tonight, you're not going to finish first. Yeah. Cameron Payne is a guy that I'm not sure if I could get behind. Jay Crowder, I like. Cameron Payne, I'm not sure.
One more. Curry, Booker, Prince, Johnson, Drummond, Goodwin, Green, Whiteside. So Drummond seems to be the risky play that people are willing to go for tonight.
Yeah, and it's somebody that, you end up looking at that $6,000 to $7,500 range. There's pretty much only two guys that can really hit. I don't even want to say 50 points, but let's say 45 to 50. It's Colin Sexton and Andre Drummond. That's it. There's nobody else in that range that could really get there. So outside of that, I'm not hoping for a Draymond Green 20-point triple-double with 5 steals and 5 blocks. Like you got like that. That's just Draymond's a really good real-life NBA player, but when we're talking about NBA DFS, you gotta keep that in mind to temper our expectations a little bit. There are games where Draymond Green legitimately scores 0 points and just grabs 10 rebounds and 10 assists, right? So it's a spot where we kind of have to temper our expectations after last night's performance a little bit. I do like him, but just temper those expectations. For me, the two guys that can possibly drop 45 to 50 tonight, it's Andre Drummond and Colin Sexton in that range. So I don't mind it. Cam Johnson scares the crap out of me. Like, it's just that guy, he is so talented, but Jay Crowder refuses to go away, man. Everywhere this guy goes, he wins. He plays good defense. He knocks down some threes. Like, everywhere Jay Crowder has gone, he's just a proven winner, whether it was in Boston, whether it was in Dallas, anywhere this guy goes. In Miami, he played super well. It's just this guy walks into a locker room and just brings that veteran presence like no other, right? So in a spot like this against Sacramento, if you're playing that blowout angle, where like that's what Cam Johnson needs. So even tonight, that's it, right? So if Booker blows it open, do you want to play Booker with Cameron Payne? That's my question to you, right? So you got to think about it. It's like, because then I'll give you two scenarios. Booker blows it wide open, which he's going to do. It's Devin Booker. He's a baller. Does he blow it up enough for him to pay off at that price? And then on top of that, Cameron Payne get enough run for him to pay off as well? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself when you're making these lineups, right? So same thing with Cameron Johnson. I see Booker and Cam Johnson in the lineup that we just had up on the screen, right? So you end up having Booker and Cam Johnson in that lineup. For Cam Johnson to get there, this game's got to blow up wide open. Jay Crowder's got to sit. Dario Saric has to sit. DeAndre Ayton has to sit. Guys like this for Cam Johnson to really thrive. And especially Mikal Bridges. At that point, it's like, okay, Suns ends up blowing them out. They're up by 30. At what point are they up by 30? Because if it's late into the fourth, because Devin Booker and Chris Paul took over in the late third and the fourth,
not going to get enough.
You're not giving yourself enough time, right? So that's where you have to end up saying, like, what do I need for this to happen? And then if it's, okay, they're going to be up by 30 at halftime, Cam Johnson is going to get all the run. Okay, very plausible. Sacramento's on a back-to-back. Phoenix, one of the best teams in the league this year. Good offense, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. A lot of things going for them tonight. They could be up by 30 at half. Is one half enough for Devin Booker to pay off at 8,700? Is he going to drop 35 points in a half like what Steph did the other night? These are the things that you need to be asking yourself, right? So if one of the answers is no to any one of those questions, you have to end up rethinking your lineup, right? So spots like that, it's the only thing. Goodwin's in play. Coming back to this specific lineup, Goodwin is played solely if Trae Young is out. If Trae Young is in, it's because he's 100% healthy. Now that, on top of that, Milwaukee made the first move. If Trae is not healthy, they're not going to say, oh, let's possibly risk Trae getting injured to win one game versus Milwaukee. Like, they know they have no business winning this game. Now that Giannis is in, Atlanta should not win this game, technically. So this is a spot where if Trae's not 100%, he's not going to play. That's where I would play Goodwin. If Trae's in, I'm not touching any Atlanta value. I'm going with their starting five, and that's it.
Yeah. And last question is, so best bet come down from Drummond to upgrade Payne. Is that where we're going?
That's a definitely, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
Drummond's out there, and it's not cheap for Andre Drummond. And he came out in his last press conference. He said, "I'm having trouble getting in a groove offensively. I want to be there on the slate where he gets it together on the first slate because he's gonna drop 20 and 20. It's gonna happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I do want to be there when he drops 20-20, and it would be so typical for him to do it on a slate like this, where you look at the winning lineup and you're like, okay, who is that 5% owned player that went off? And it's a vintage Andre Drummond 2020 game, right? So it's a spot that could happen. I know Jay wants it to happen, even though he hates playing him in DFS. He has a ton of Andre Drummond top shots, so I know he wants that to happen sooner.
Of course he. Oh, of course he does.
So Andre Drummond tonight is the wild card. If you're worried about Cameron Payne, again, ask those questions to yourself. You're playing Payne with Booker. Do you want to come off Booker and go to Sexton? Or if you love Booker that much, are you giving Cameron Payne enough time in that blowout to not only have Booker go nuts, but also Cameron Payne get his points? If one of the answers is no, Andre Drummond would be the guy that I come off of in that case. Because I'm not coming off Steph. Under no situation am I coming off Steph Curry. It's not happening.
So basically, we are just waiting, obviously, to see if Trae Young plays or not. And everything you just said there changes maybe absolutely everything. That's wonderful. That's why you listen. And that's why you go to the Discord chat, windailysports.com/chat. That's why you talk to Ghost at every single point that you can because, well, things change rapidly. But that's it for the NBA DFS preview show. Ghost, I'm feeling another good night. I don't know about you. I'm feeling another good one. And you know what?
I like this one.
I hope we could take this momentum we got going here into Fajita Friday. All right, that's what I want to do.
It's the best day of the week. Best day of the week. We have to. No choice.
We'll be back tomorrow, 5:45, and we're going to be rolling. You know what? I don't even care what happens. We're going to be rolling, and we're going to be feeling pretty good, I think, on a Fajita Friday. But that's it for the NBA DFS preview show. Check out everything windailysports.com.